Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a fascinating 2026 update from the Journal of Human Lactation. It focuses on a highly specialized and, frankly, deeply underappreciated group of healthcare professionals, the International Board-Certified Lactation Consultant, or IBCLC. We're going to unpack how they operate right at the intersection of science, advocacy, and hands-on clinical care.
Think about this for a second. Is specialized lactation support a luxury, or is it a true medical necessity? For a really long time, the wider healthcare system kind of treated it as a nice-to-have extra. But today, we're challenging that. By looking at the clinical evidence, the economics, and the equity data, we'll see exactly why modern maternal-child healthcare demands that we view this support as an absolute necessity. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for the explainer. We'll start with the Lactation Support Challenge, decode the IBCLC roles, see them in action as clinical experts, explore bridging the equity gap, and finally, look at trust, savings, and policy.
Part 1. The Lactation Support Challenge, Navigating Modern Barriers. Despite crystal-clear global health recommendations, families today face immense structural and healthcare barriers to feeding their infants. Enter the IBCLC. This is a uniquely credentialed clinical expert. Established back in 1985, I need to emphasize that this isn't just some weekend certification. It requires rigorous training and internationally recognized testing. While community peer counselors are absolutely wonderful and necessary, IBCLCs are the gold standard for clinical care. They are fully equipped to handle highly complex medical challenges. Section 2. Decoding the IBCLC roles beyond the bedside. An IBCLC wears an incredible number of hats. We're talking clinical expert, educator, investigator, policy consultant, collaborator, and facilitator. They elevate the profession from basic bedside assistance all the way up to system-wide leadership. And to make sure their knowledge stays cutting edge, they actually have to rigorously recertify every 5 years. Now, what's really interesting here is that over the last decade, IBCLCs haven't just been reading the science, they are actively creating it. They serve as principal investigators on federally funded clinical trials. They act as methodologists and data collectors. And as educators, they're out there actively training the next generation of healthcare providers, literally teaching resident doctors the best clinical practices. And their influence scales up to the highest levels of global health. As policy advocates, they help shape World Health Organization guidelines and fight to restrict the aggressive digital marketing of breast milk substitutes. But then, they scale right back down to the micro level, fiercely advocating for individual families. They're helping them navigate confusing hospital systems and negotiating directly with doctors to ensure feeding goals are respected.
Section 3. Clinical Experts in Action, Transforming Healthcare Teams. When we look at highly vulnerable infants in the NICU, the data is just striking. Systematic reviews confirm that when an IBCLC is embedded directly in the NICU team, there's a massive increase in the use of the mother's own milk and direct breastfeeds. For a premature or medically fragile infant, this isn't just a nice bonus, right? It's a critical, life-saving intervention for their long-term health.
These consultants also manage incredibly complex, high-stakes conditions, whether it's navigating lactation safely for individuals with HIV, or inducing lactation without a recent pregnancy, which is known as non-puerperal relactation. They are the ultimate guides. Actually, think back to the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. In places like Hong Kong, IBCLCs were the trusted experts helping families make safe feeding decisions amidst totally chaotic, ever-changing hospital protocols. And this brilliantly illustrates their value. Consider a specific clinical case highlighted in the paper. A late preterm infant gets diagnosed with Gilbert's syndrome, which causes prolonged jaundice. Normally, this is exactly the kind of scenario where a doctor might unnecessarily order a stop to breastfeeding. But with an IBCLC's tailored intervention, the mother was able to navigate the condition safely. The baby gained weight, breastfeeding continued, and the mother's confidence absolutely skyrocketed.
Section 4. Bridging the Equity Gap. Access for all.
We absolutely have to talk about the stark geographical and socioeconomic disparities in care. The data shows a severe, unfair gap. Urban mothers often benefit from access to both in-person and telelactation services. Meanwhile, rural mothers, they're often left in a complete desert of support. This inequity directly sabotages breastfeeding success for some of our most vulnerable populations.
But here is the good news. IBCLCs are actively closing these gaps. By utilizing telelactation and virtual support, they're reaching underserved rural populations directly in their living rooms. Through academic community partnerships, like embedding IBCLCs into community health centers, they are bridging the divide for low-income mothers, significantly boosting breastfeeding odds where it truly matters most.
Equity also means culturally responsive care. Research shows that over 90% of providers in transgender healthcare recognize a distinct need for specialized lactation protocols. IBCLCs are expanding their roles to provide exactly this type of inclusive care for the LGBTQ+ community. Because ultimately, everyone who wants to provide human milk deserves expert, respectful support.
Let's move to Section 5 and see how this builds into trust, savings, and policy, the bottom line. $2.33 million. Let that number sink in. According to a cost-benefit model cited in the paper, that is the estimated annual savings for the Medicaid system in just the state of North Carolina alone, and that's simply by reimbursing IBCLC services.
So, the crucial point is, where do these millions in savings actually come from? Well, it's not magic. It's preventative healthcare at its best. Savings are generated directly by preventing severe, highly expensive to treat infant illnesses. We're talking lower respiratory tract infections, severe gastroenteritis, and a devastating intestinal disease in premature infants called necrotizing enterocolitis. When IBCLCs help families breastfeed successfully, hospital admissions just plummet and health systems save millions.
The return on investment for health systems that integrate and reimburse IBCLC models is undeniable. You get better population-level health, drastically lower expenditures, and far fewer preventable illnesses. Plus, you build immense consumer trust by giving families the expert care they actually want and need during such a vulnerable time.
I want to share a powerful quote directly from the 2026 Position Update because it perfectly captures our core thesis today. Elevate, integrate, and invest in the IBCLC role, not as a luxury, but as a necessity for maternal child health in an era of rising complexity.
Which leaves us with this final thought. We've seen the data, the clinical outcomes, and the massive economic benefits. So, whether you're an expecting parent, a hospital administrator, or a local policymaker, how is your local healthcare system investing in this crucial role? Are they treating it as an optional luxury, or are they truly integrating the IBCLC to ensure every family has access to this vital expertise? It's a question we all need to be asking.